good afternoon, and welcome to Nigeria Now, where we discuss happenings in Nigeria. We look at various sectors, whereas we see what's happening there, and then is there progress or are things just falling apart? These are part of the things we will discuss this afternoon. So please do well to join us on Facebook, drop your comment and your views. I am Sarah Elisha Dashom. I'll bring this program together with Rachel. Tansy, good afternoon.
Afternoon, fella.
All right. Sorry. Without much waste of time, we will look into some of the things we love to discuss. But just to let you know that after several postponement, the Port Harcourt refinery has commenced fuel production, and this is coming from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. They confirmed this today, and they confirmed this through their spokesperson Odufemi, saying that loading of trucks will start today. So after the long wait and so much of postponement, finally we're seeing that Port Harcourt refinery have actually started production. So all fingers are crossed. We would love to know how much of truck will be actually uploaded today from that refinery. Well, while we look at some of the issues happening in Nigeria, we'll quickly move to one of the things we love to discuss, and this is regarding borrowing, where we're seeing that the finance minister is pushing for more loans. And I mean, we started the discussion kind of in the morning, Rachel, where we're looking at the fact that there was more like a blame game engagement yesterday between the National Assembly and the
Yes.
executive regarding. I mean, we're seeing that some of the sectors have actually surpassed the revenue they are supposed to actually generate, especially looking at the CBN, looking at the yes,
FIRS,
exactly,
the
and custom,
customs,
of
yeah.
course. We're seeing that they have actually, their revenue for the year, they have actually
Mm,
exceeded what,
yeah.
and then yet we're seeing that the federal government is bent on borrow. I mean, just last week we saw where the House actually approved 2.2 trillion naira for
Mm-hmm.
borrowing again. And then while we're looking at how are we going to fund the deficit that we are having, and then we're hoping to have the 2025 budget, and then we're seeing another borrowing again going on. And we're seeing that categorically the finance minister, together with the minister of budget and planning, came out together joint, saying the
Mm,
fact that, you know what, this borrowing is because we need this money for certain budget allocations that it was already
mm,
captured in the 2024 budget. And so that is why they are borrowing. Now we also seen, I mean, we actually saw what the some of the sectors were able to realize for the third quarter. So it's not far-fetched from looking
it's
at
not.
this borrowing, as well as how much the economy has actually improved despite the inflation and then all of that that is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But they were saying that the minister is pushing that we should get more loans despite all of this progress kind of that we're seeing. But I mean, it is what it is, and they were saying that it seems the House are really not okay with it. I think we saw yesterday where the House of Reps were frowning regarding this borrowing.
The House of Reps might frown. We would have the National Assembly
Mm,
coming out and all of that. Nigerians too ask question. I mean, if we have the FIRS generating more revenue, if we have the customs bringing in more revenue, if we have the central bank bringing in more revenue, only the electronic
mm,
money transfer levies alone is increasing when it comes to bank transactions. So the Central Bank of Nigeria is seeing some money. Even when we look at certain things concerning our external revenue, we have the CBN and governor not before, not after the recent MPC meeting, the one that took place
mm,
yesterday. We're talking about the one that happened prior to that of yesterday. Talked about diaspora remittances as one of the reasons why our
mm,
external reserves are seeing some increase and is normal rather than going down as we had it differently at the first half of the year 2024. Do we have certain financial activities happening in the country? Yes. Is revenue going? Yes. Are we exceeding our oil production
mm.
daily? We are at 1.8 million barrel per
Per
day,
day.
and we're seeing assurance from the NNPCL that we can be able to get to 2 million barrel per day. Even today we saw different statistics on
Mm,
papers, and we also saw that concerning our balance of trade, and we do have a surplus of about 6 trillion naira. That is because our export is at 19 trillion, and then and importation is at 12. So it might look like we're doing fairly good. However, the question is, what was 2000 2024 budget, we're looking at a budget that stood at around 36 trillion naira. So now, if we have a surplus trade of about 6 trillion, that when it comes to our balance of trade, that's one side. What was the estimated revenue to that oil was to generate for that budget was 18 trillion. Now, do we still have in excess not to borrow? No, we do not have. Our revenue generated completely is not up to the budget entirely. We might be exceeding what we usually have. Doesn't mean that we have reached the target to finance our budget. Now, that aside, we can even look at the fact that say, okay, you know what about debt servicing? There are certain revenues that we are generating that's going to debt servicing already. So it's not like the federal government have all of this revenue at their disposal for them to do whatever they want to do with it. We have debt servicing, which we are seeing what our debt profile is as at this moment is 134 trillion naira. It's 3 times our budget. Both the one for 2024, both the proposed one for 2025. This is currently our deficit when it comes to how much we are owing out there, apart from what is going into the servicing and all of that. Now, when I keep saying that, of course, there are certain policies, reforms economically that don't need to take long for Nigerians to start seeing their dividends. Perhaps now we can start giving some thumbs up. It might be early, Sele, but we've seen certain green lights in the past that turn out to be flop at the end of the day. Is this administration, if this administration can be able to sustain these 4 years moving on, then before Nigerians can start seeing some stability, because we still have a lot on ground that even if we're seeing a revenue increase, it doesn't mean the revenue is superseding our expenses. It's increasing. It doesn't change the fact that it is enough to cover every expense that have been put or estimated in our budget and all of that. These are facts whatsoever. But the major thing I think for me the finance minister is putting out there is that this budget, this borrowing that we are about to do, the loans and all of that, should be channeled toward more productivity, that our productive sectors. We have to look at agriculture. We saw its potential, how it has grown so far for the year 2024, and look at other key sectors that are being neglected that needs to be put into it. Because when it comes to, we keep saying the problem is how have our leaders been spending the borrowed funds we have in this country, because borrowing is not out of an economic way of doing things. It's not a bad thing. We can't sit down and say it's a bad thing. We still have countries who are borrowing despite being giants when it comes to their economic strength and all of that. But to go to another level, you need, but then what are you channeling those funds to? I think these are the questions. This is where I think Nigerians should keep their eyes open and their ears on the ground to hear everything that is happening concerning it. Apart from that, I don't think the finance minister is wrong saying that we still need to borrow something. He's not coming from a place that is strange. It's actually our reality.
I think the question for the House possibly will be the fact that, they are no longer strangers to borrowing. Some of the lawmakers have been there for a while, and then we can trace it back to 2021 and all of the times we keep borrowing. And then each time we see response coming from the federal government that, you know what, we're actually borrowing because we need infrastructure, we're borrowing because we need to put certain things, we're borrowing because of proper planning. But then, Nigerians will ask, have we really been planning properly all this while? Just like you said, some of the key sectors, we saw ICT, trade, and then we saw that even one of the papers in the morning earlier said the fact that some of even our refineries will actually be privatized. And then we're also seeing that certain things will be sold to private owners, so that to see eventually it means more money for
we'll
Nigerians.
Just have more of Dangote refinery that was once a federal refinery, that of Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna if we eventually sell them,
No,
or
so
maybe that is the process ongoing right now.
So I'm just hoping that with all of these things getting into the hands of private individuals, we begin to see better, production coming in, and then
Eventually,
better planning, and then eventually we'll not have issues of money going into a particular place and then nothing is being
yes.
gotten from there. So our fingers are crossed, and we hope that this borrowing around will be able to see evidence for it coming from the government. Now we've been talking for a while now regarding security, and then we just cannot shy away from discussing what is the status of security in Nigeria. How secured are you wherever you find yourself? And then we can go back to the fact, this new body, even though not really new, but then it seems as if they are beginning to get more grounds because we're seeing that they are spreading. Talking
Yeah.
about the Lakurawas, and then we're seeing that initially they're just in Sokoto and Kebbi, but with time we're beginning to see that they're spreading to Niger and then to other parts, and then eventually, if care is not taken, they will be in the north central. And we know what that means. Once they get the center, it's very easy for them to spread to even other geopolitical zone. And I think it's very important. I love the action the federal government is saying about having more troops, but I am hoping that beyond just having more troops, there will be more, having so much of gadgets ready, because one of the concern and one of the things we've been failing as a nation is the fact that when you look at what our security and the intelligence coming from the Nigerian troops and then comparing it with the other sect, you will agree with me that sometimes these sects tend to be overpower, or it seems it looks. But then I am hoping that here, in as much as we're seeing the federal government moving forward to say, you know what, we want to have more troops, we want more, presence of the security at every point. I'm just hoping that they have all that it takes to protect them. We can go to the fact that a number of soldiers have been killed, a number of police have been killed as a result of this body and all of that. So I'm looking forward to, it's one thing for you to have more troops or planning to have more troops, but then is the government doing all that it takes to secure their life? Let's not even forget about what's happening in Benue. I just can't place a finger on what really is happening in that state. It seems as if every day, Kaduna, we saw, the community that are crying how much they have paid as a result of bodies such as this. And then it's more like, to me, it's more like these bodies are just changing names. We said at one point in time it's Boko Haram, and another time it was unknown gunmen, which I said they are not unknown because they are human beings, they are not spirits. And then now we're having the Lakurawa. So it's really, I think, a point of concern to me personally, and I'm hoping that the government will do something better. It's one thing for us to see we're on top of the matter, but then how on top are you? I think these are the questions Nigerians will be asking when it comes to issues such as this.
So, we can count the terrorist group in Nigeria. We have Boko Haram, we have IPOB because they have been labeled as
Yes,
terrorist group. We have herders, you know, herdsmen and all of that. We can tag them whatever they are, but these are territorial insurgents, and whether we like it or not, are displacing people, taking over farmlands, however we feel like tagging them. And then we have the ISWAP, and then now we are having Lakurawa. In one country, Sele, I'm trying to find where I can be positive concerning the whole issue of terrorism in this country. It might sound like the youngest of them all, but it's not that young because we're looking at a problem of 8 solid years and they're waxing strong. At first, because I'm just knowing about this terrorist group, I find it hard to believe that they have been there for that long, because the optimistic angle I was coming from, I was like, well, they're small because when he started making runs on our papers, and one of the thing that was said was these people were using force and money to coerce me. And I was like, well, if they do not have a strong basis as to, well, you're coercing people and forcing people with money, then it means you're weak. Because I know when you go to the Middle East, when you have Al Qaeda, you have the Al Shabaab, the Taliban, and the ISIS, and all of that. When you look at all of these things, of course, they do not force people with money or any other thing, because they do have
An
in their belief, an ideology, a just cause, a reason enough for somebody to suicide bomb themselves because they believe that this is a just cause and all of that. So I was like, well, if they're using money and all of that, then it means they're not strong enough. But they've been on for 8 good years. So it means they know what they are doing and they're working strong. And why I'm saying I'm finding it difficult to find a ground where I'll be happy or excited that more troops are out there is because it means that we have been sleeping to have let this terrorist group to start since 2016. Nothing was done. It is 8 years now. It means that they are stronger. It means that they are bigger and they are spreading. And they're yet to give us their agenda. And if they are moving, we could know what the Boko Haram was. When one or two things happen, what will be their strategy of attack now on Nigerians? Before they start coming out to say, well, this was done by us, that was done by us, we are demanding this, we are demanding, because it looks like they are not getting to their peak, because the whole of Nigeria know them as it is now. So I'm worried. It means someone got the information of a small terrorist group starting in 2016.
Possibly the community has been crying
and nobody did anything about it. And I remember when we talked about this, I think some 2 weeks back on this show, I said, what did the state governor do concerning it? Because sometimes the fight about certain insurgents start at the grassroots level before it grows. And when we see the Southwest talking about state police at the Moteco, and you would see the results they have out there concerning how many small community clashes, problems they were able to. And we sit down and when we see certain things concerning insecurity, we are not embracing it. And we are not running to embrace it, knowing what it can fully do to our communities when it comes to security and all of that. So it bothers me because it's one country and we can count at least 4 to 5 terrorist groups. So it means we're in trouble. It means that we don't have enough troops for Boko Haram because it is a tick that is still there. So now what troop is going to be given to Lakurawa? That's the question we're supposed to be asking. Because how herdsmen, kidnappers, IPOP and all of that, how many troops are we going to spread across all of these terrorist groups and all of that? It's a thing of concern for me. I'm just looking forward. I'm just watching. We are all watching to see how the government will pull it off concerning fighting insecurity in this country, because it looks like we are walking on thin line as it is now. We're just at the edge, and I can't imagine. I don't even want to imagine what will be the future of Nigeria when it comes to insecurity, because when it looks like we are the fire is dying down, and somewhere there's smoke.
It's up again
in another place. That's what it feels like right now concerning terrorism.
I can actually relate with your fear, because it will look more like, just like we said, I mean, the community has been crying for long, I believe, and then it seems as if nobody paid attention to their cry all this while, and then when it has gotten out of hand, you're not making it and letting us know that, you know what, for the past 8 years we have been struggling. But who did you complain to? Who did you talk to? If the community have actually related to their community leader, the community leader must have related to the councillor, the chairman. The chairman should have actually taken it. How comes we're just getting to know about this body? So I am hoping that, just like we said, the government will do something about this. I mean, we don't want to get to the point where we look like Afghanistan. This was because I believe this was how it started, and then before I realized it, the body took hold of the entire government, every sector and all of that. So our fingers are crossed, and we hope that better approach will be taken by government henceforth regarding anything, no matter how little it is. We should not underrate anything such as insecurity. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for being with me. As well, thank you to our viewers and our supporters. Thank you for making this program a success. We look forward again to doing this together. Please do have a great day ahead.